Hello. See that we have in the previous classes we have discussed different aspects of English, the position of English and the characteristics of old English and in relation to modern English. And I talked about that because I have to make you understand the growth of the language, the change of the transformation which has taken place in the language. And now we have mentioned those, but now we are going to discuss the another thing. This is not the absolutely another thing. Actually, it is related to that one because why has these sort of changes have taken place, and for that, when we are exploring that, we find that there are certain languages which have influenced a lot in the formation of in the formative during the formative period of the language also. And that means it has formed the shape, it is given the shape of the language. And it started even before the English language was developed, took the shape, and still today also we find the influence of other languages on English. And but before I go into, before we go into the or I go into the discussion, let me request you to subscribe the channel so that it can get some wide publicity. It is not necessary for other things, but it is necessary for the other students of the other colleges also. They can also use it. And English language has gotten greater influence at the beginning of that one. This is Scandinavian influence. And we know that old English developed itself or emerged in the 6th century. That means 550 onwards, I told you that. And English as a nation, they gradually developed. And in the 9th century, look at the point is that in the 9th century, again a group of people from the northern Europe, that means I told you that Denmark, Norway, Sweden, from these countries, the people, that means they are called basically Viking or the basically sea rowing people. They basically habituated the sea, and they basically the Vikings. They are called Vikings, and they are in one term they are called Norse people, or you can say Scandinavian people. There's you see Germany, and I told you that I showed you in the map also, and I think you have also come to know about that one. There are certain countries like Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. They are basically Iceland. They are called basically Scandinavia, and from those countries the people came started migrating towards migrating, and they came to settle in England. And very interestingly, they were basically very powerful because already English people have been Christianized, and they are basically now very, you can say, gradually they are becoming more cultivated, cultured people, and they could not resist the influx of these tribal communities from these Scandinavian countries. And they tried to settle in England by fighting with the natives. And in 800 by this time, actually King Alfred came to power. He was the most powerful king and of the time, and he was basically considered the father of English prose because his contribution is immense in the development of the English language. And ultimately King Alfred had to sign an agreement with the Scandinavians, and that treaty is called Treaty of Wedmore, Wedmore, in 878 it was signed. And this settlement ultimately had a greater influence in the development of the formation of the English language. And Danish people settle in England, Norwegian people, Swedish people, and Dane law was imposed in England through this treaty. Treaty was signed between the Danes and King Alfred. This is basically known as Treaty of Wedmore in 878. and the people, these people settle in the northern and eastern part of England, northern counties and eastern counties of England, and we find the names of the places. See, the place names indicates that they are domination in those areas. Scandinavian people are basically more powerful, and they could change the names of the places. See that name like Whitby, Grimsby, Linthorpe, Lowestoft, Nortoft. These Toft, B, Thorpe, these are the endings which are basically Scandinavian endings. So again the son in case of the proper names. So place name Stevenson, Johnson, these are the names. So place names and the proper names and the person's name, these are the indication of the domination of these Scandinavian people over the British people, the English people. This is very interesting part of that one. And then as the Scandinavian people are not cultivated, I told you that they are sea rowing people, they are basically Vikings, and that's why we do not find no particular type of words borrowed from these Scandinavians, but they borrowed a huge number of words and that we find, and we will find most of the words are basically related to their domestic life and the day-to-day life in the relationship. And I am giving the list of words. It's a very exemplary words. So there are many examples. Some examples I am mentioning. So in the nouns, anger, busk, birth, then calf, 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 then bank, egg, husband, wife, roof, windows, sister. Similarly, adjectives like that one. The adjective means flat, awkward, ugly, and verbs like bang, bask. I told you wrong one. The bask is basically verb that I mentioned. Sorry, please remove that one. Bask, call, cast, give, get. These are the verbs which are basically Scandinavian verbs. Then adverbs like athwart, and then aloft, then pronouns, very interesting pronouns like they, them, their, the third person plural. These are all borrowed from, these have been borrowed from Scandinavian. Similarly, some political and legal words like law, outlaw, wrong, etc. the Scandinavian words. And very interestingly, that phrasal verbs, verb plus preposition, we know very well. These group verbs are basically due to Scandinavian influence. So we are nowadays, we are with the learners of English face the problem in remembering those phrasal verbs, and this is because of this Scandinavian influence. And recently, some words have been borrowed from the Scandinavian languages. There is ski, saga, Viking. These are the words basically that one. And very interesting part of that one. In some cases, that Scandinavian words have been borrowed, and English words have been suppressed. That means disappeared. Disappearance of the English word due to the entrance or appearance or entrance or acceptance of the Scandinavian word. For example, in Old English, be form, third plural form is sin done, and nowadays we use ar, which is basically Scandinavian. Similarly, similar examples are there, like that one. We know very well. We are using sky. Again, the same thing is that, and then I'm going to that one just a little later. Before that, let me talk about that one. There are certain words with the meaning also. Scandinavian meaning suppressed or supplanted the Old English meaning. Suppose, for example, dream meant joy in Old English, but the present meaning is vision in sleep, and that meaning is Scandinavian. Similarly, the word is that dwell, Old English meaning astray, but now present meaning is living in a particular place, and the dwell is basically the present meaning is Scandinavian. Similarly, the word like bread, I am giving three examples. Bread, Old English meaning fragment, at a khondo, fragment, but the present meaning is bread, loaf, a piece of loaf, and that is again Scandinavian. And then we find that basically I'm giving certain words. You look at the point is that both Scandinavian word and the Scandinavian word, English word, both survive. That means we English people use both the words. Like the English people use, and also we the learners of English one we also use that one. Short and skirt, whole and hail, and the no, nay, and then we find in certain cases we find that dew and dag. Dew is used, dag is also used. Church and kirk, K-I-R-K, kirk. Chest and kest and kist, that is also there. Mouth and mound, M-O-U-T-H, and M-U-N, moon, that's also sometimes we use. And again the fish, we use English word. English survived and Scandinavian has been suppressed. That has also taken place. Suppose we find that F-I and S-H, English word, it is now used, and by suppressing the Scandinavian word F-I-S-K. Similarly, English word F-E-W, few we use, but fu has disappeared. Naked, English word. Nekon was basically a Scandinavian word. We do not use nekon. Similarly, Y-A-R-N, yarn. We use yarn, English word, and it has suppressed the Scandinavian word garn, G-A-R-N. And again, very interestingly, another part of that one, the sister. So you see, the sister is Scandinavian, and English word was S-W-U-S-T-E-R, Suster. Nowadays and then Y-I-F-T and G-I-F-T. We use gift. Gift is Scandinavian. Y-I-F-T is English. English has disappeared, and gift, that word we use. So from that you can make the list that in some cases both the English and Scandinavian words survive. In some cases Scandinavian word suppress the English word. In some cases English word suppress the Scandinavian. It is not that one way exchange. It's basically bilateral. Sometimes in English survived, Scandinavians disappeared. English, both the words survived, and at the same time in some cases Scandinavian survived, English disappeared. It is because of the certain other causes, maybe because of the simplicity or the pronunciation part of that one, simplicity in pronunciation. But how can you decide that this word is an English word and Scandinavian word? That is very, very confusing. See that if it's a ko and ga followed by a or e, that is basically considered as these are the words, Scandinavian words, like call, get, give, kid, kid, kid. These are the words basically Scandinavian words. And German, I told you that this Scandinavian people, in initial discussion I told you that these people are German tribes. They went towards the north, and some people went to the east, and west means England, and some people went to the north side, that means the Scandinavian part, England, Denmark, Sweden, Iceland, and others. So from that you can understand this almost all the words of the Scandinavian words and English words both have derived from the German, originally German. So in German, S letter I'm mentioning letter SC, it has become SK in Scandinavian and SH in English. Suppose sky is Scandinavian, shy is English. Similarly, FISH and FISK, but ultimately FISH survives. So this is a very interesting test. Shall and will. Again, I will tell you that one time. That verb, we are using shall and will. That is also due to Scandinavian influence. Shall, fish. This indicates that these are English words, original English words, and sky, skin, and then bank, bask. These are basically the bask, and basically these are the Scandinavian words. And this is an interesting point is that SC has become short and skirt. You see that short is basically both have the same meaning. Short and skirt have the same meaning because when the Scandinavian people came to England and they settled there, and both the words were used for the dress. But gradually they said, okay, let both the words be used by us, and in that case shirt will goes to male dress and skirt goes to female dress. So in that way that means ultimately this is called, this phenomenon is both existence of the soul, both the words having the same root but have the same some meaning changes. This is called the doublet, D-O-U-B-L-E-T. So this is shirt and skirt, disc and disc. These are the examples of doublet. And again there is another vowel test. With the vowel test you can come to know that whether this word belongs to Scandinavian languages or this word belongs to English. Germanic AI became A and then O in modern in English, and A, EI or A in Scandinavian. For example, no is English because you see that nai, it was nai became na and then no. Modern English is basically this is an English word, and the nai became ne in Scandinavian languages. But we know very well we use both no and ne. Ne is used in poetry. Ne, we are seven in the poem, Wordsworth's poem. No. And then whole and hail. Whole is English and hail is hail and hearty. And we use that one, hail and H-A-L-E, whole and hail, and that's basically we find that one. That's a Canadian example of this one, the existence of both the words, doublet, whole and hail, and then no and nay. Again, this is again E and A letter. It has become AU, and then LEAS, lease, and then becomes LAUS, then LOOSE. Loose is the old knots. So this is the changes have taken place, and Old English suffix is an, whereas prefix suffix is no prefix, whereas the neg prefix is an, and Old Norse is only u. Untime, U-N-T-I-M-E, untime we use. Un is basically English, whereas E only they use, Scandinavian people use U, but we use un, not U. So in that way we find that means prefix un survives, English suffix, English prefix un survives, and Old Norse suffix, that means Scandinavian suffix u disappears. This is basically the very interesting part of that one. But let me tell you that they have taken the words from this Scandinavian languages. English people, I told you that English people are very omnivorous. English language is omnivorous. English people are very much wide and you can say broad-hearted to use, to accommodate the words, to take and imbibe words, to take the words and to adopt the words, and then adapt it, adjust it with the language. They have done, but the grammatical system remains the same. That means that they have borrowed the words from the different languages. They borrow the words, but their grammatical system, this is their own. So sometimes called and English people cannot live, cannot thrive, and cannot die without Scandinavian word. But it has been uttered by Otto Jespersen. But ultimately, Jespersen says, but the grammar, the basic grammatical system is English. That is the quality. That is the very interesting part of the English language. Okay, thank you. With this, let me stop here. I will share with you other aspects later on.